Governor Sheriff of M.O.R.E came prepared. The M.O.R.E agenda encapsulates all that he planned to do because it's a continuity government. He has come in to enhance development in the entire space. M.O.R.E is meaningful development. The O is opportunities for all. R is relevant reforms, and E is enhanced peace and security. So clearly, we had premonitions of what the future economic outlook would be like, given the way the Naira-dollar exchange rate was running, and also given the way that the economy itself had been battered and beaten. So he was focused. The program itself was focused on alleviating poverty, mitigating waste, and enhancing growth in Delta states. First is for our people. Our GDP is not a bad one. We are the foremost producers of crude oil. And we have a huge army of youths and have done so well in skill acquisitions and vocational training. But the current situation we find ourselves is such that because of the insecurity, which is a nationwide challenge, our people, our farms have been invaded. But having said that, we have dedicated farms in different areas where people are being attended to, keeping them in clusters, safe clusters where they can function. But we set out from the one as a campaign manifesto, which has translated into our agenda to engage our people and do meaningful interventions that will better their lives. First is the civil service. It came in and cleared a debt of over 5.5 billion, which is promotion arrears. This is not public salary, it was just promotion arrears. These promotion arrears arose from the negligence of the people of the civil service from documentation, by documentation. Because if they came up at the appropriate time, it will not be it won't be building up. And that's the first thing that he did. And that's quite significant. We looked at the entire environment and thought that, we needed more people to reduce the dependency ratio, and then employed 3,411 workers at the primary school level at the both teaching and non-teaching staff. And that was quite significant to help the system, bolster education and all that. And that's not just all. We found out that when the impact of the subsidy started biting so hard, we found out we had to reduce the workday, rotational workday, to 3 times a week for our workers, especially those who are not on essential services. And that has also helped to alleviate. We also provided car allowances, vehicle allowances, motor grants and loans to our team in civil service to enable them, facilitate their movements and make life a lot more comfortable for them. So that's as far as the civil service is concerned. So the interventions is not only about the civil service, it also cuts across every segment of Deltans, whether you are in civil service, whether you are public service, and whether you are in private service. We have gone ahead to focus largely on our youth and the aged, and indeed the women. In 1 year, we have empowered 5,500 people. Girl child, 2,000 people in girl child, artisans, and petty traders, because we believe that they need working capital to strengthen their businesses. Because given the dynamic operating environment, their little capital had been eroded, coupled with all the challenges, macroeconomic challenges in the system. So it was obvious that we needed to intervene in these areas, and that we have done. And then we have also done quite a bit in terms of infrastructure, because once you do infrastructure, you are directly creating jobs by definition of ILO. Over 317 job projects have been started, spanning over 800 and something kilometers of roads and drains, respectively. And then direct intervention, fresh intervention by His Excellency, was about 76 road projects, which is about 117 kilometers, which is very significant in 1 year. And that, will attract labor, will attract people cooking, will attract granite, will attract sand, and just a staccato of economic activity, flurry of it, which has also helped the system for interconnecting the rural to urban areas, stemming rural urban migration, and then building cities, beginning to build cities. Once you have roads, you have infrastructure in those areas, you are beginning to do all of those. And then now the federal government interventions. Delta State government was one of those who actually first started the DCARES in Nigeria. Today we have done over 110,844 beneficiaries, and in the 3 resort areas. And that's very fantastic for us. The aged, the youth, the sick, special needs, food security in the resort area 2, food security in all those areas. And in resort area 3, stimulating the small businesses and the micro, small enterprises to make sure that we breathe life into them, which is actually supposed to be a post-COVID intervention, where it has suddenly become a norm because of the economic realities that face us today. So the Delta State we have done major interventions until the federal government palliatives crept into our vocabulary. There are palliatives desirable, but not sustainable. We've had all sorts of beans, rice, gari, maize, and now fertilizer. And we have so distributed them to the satisfaction of all Deltans. We set up an incredible structure that runs through the 500 DSEP wards in the state, and then ensure that we addressed and distributed those things according to the prescription by the federal government. The governor has been deliberate, intentional in delivering these dividends. It is not because of the circumstances of today. It is an intentional plan which is embedded in our M.O.R.E agenda. Palliatives, like we say, as the name implies, is just a stopgap measure. And that's why we're saying that the federal government should work closely with the states to provide security, which is a fiscal policy on security, to enable us to secure our funds. The Delta State government is making a significant impact, plans right now as we speak, to secure sizable chunks of farmlands in the 3 senatorial districts, to quarantine them, have farm rangers, and prepare them for our people to farm. And that brings back life to our people. Because those levels of subsistence farming will reduce food prices. If you do not, no matter what you do, you can't farm, then food prices. Because what we have today is the food inflation is over 40.8%, which is unbearable. And the cost of food in the rural area, the inflation is even more in the rural area than in the urban areas. And that tells you that people no longer go to farms in those areas. And we're looking in that direction. I'm sure the governor will unfold to Deltans in no distant time a grand design to protect our farm territories and then farm there and have farm rangers to protect all those farms in the 3 senatorial districts. And we're also in partnership with, we have quite a bit of proposals on our ones with companies trying to enable youth farming and become off-takers, which has been the challenge, because supply has always been, during harvest, has always been excess supply over demand, has always been the challenge. And we're in partnership, and seriously in partnership with some companies. Sheriff is a serious-minded leader. He is a passionate leader. He is a committed leader. He shows loads of empathy, and you can see them. But he wants to do those interventions in the right directions. He does not like to politicize issues. You've seen how he has handled a lot of major security issues which could have engulfed the state. That is his nature. He's not a media person because he has people. He doesn't need to compete with his commissioner for aides who can represent and channel the state's policy. His business is to get sanctions and get deals done and get the appropriate people to talk about it. He's not media shy, but that is his style. So clearly, compassionate, committed, he has huge empathy, and professional in his dealings. Don't forget that he's also a businessman. He's not just a politician. So he still thinks of value for money, even in the midst of those transactions looking like social contracts, which is engagements to the people, which is this contract that he has with the people.